All right. As said, welcome everyone. This is Salesforce Marketing Architects Community Group keynote session, first one of the year. And this is our new concept for 2026. This virtual keynote series titled Marketing Architecture Fundamentals. So the idea is that we bring together Salesforce architects, developers, admins, and marketeers, mostly from the Salesforce ecosystem. And we cover the basics, the fundamentals of what makes marketing work in a smooth way in the Salesforce ecosystem. So basically, you could think of this as a overarching series that goes through everything that you need to know about marketing using the Salesforce stack. And yeah, let me check. So, can you guys see my screen if I do this? Brandon, can you help me out? Can you see your
thumbs up? Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, just gonna give you a brief intro on what's happening over Q1. So we have, of course, Brandon Walton here. Thank you again. Huge thank you for taking your time to share your insights. Brandon is a personal friend, an awesome person, and a very generous one. And he'll be walking through effective two-way communication. So as people who know Brandon, this is sort of his area of expertise. And next month, we have Lucas Lunov, a gentleman from Denmark, who is very well known in the Salesforce ecosystem as a MarTech guru, so to speak. And he'll be walking through consent and permission management. So absolutely crucial part of any marketing communications effort in any technology stack, regardless if you're in Salesforce or otherwise. And yeah, today Brandon will be talking about email and how to build it in a two-way or using a two-way approach. So basically talking about the end of no reply email sends and how to make them sort of interactive and boost engagement with your audience. And in Lucas's session, we'll be covering how to handle opt-in, opt-out, and email consent preferences in both Marketing Cloud Engagement and Marketing Cloud Next. And we'll be hearing practical examples of each as well. And my last slide, so I don't want to take too much of your time. If you haven't already, please join the Trailblazer community group. So anybody is free to join. You don't have to be an architect. You don't have to be a marketer. It's great if you are, but anybody is welcome. So you can join via the above link. And you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel, where I will be adding also the recording of this session and every future and previous session that we've had is also there. So that's basically it from me. Then I'll give it over for Brandon. Go ahead.
Excellent, Timo. Thank you. And thank you, everyone, for participating. It looks like live now we've got 52 or 51 participants. So that's a great start to the year. Everyone give yourselves a hand for being involved, being present. And that's what this year is all about. I think that's a theme that we're starting to use in the marketing community, the power of presence, the power of showing up and participating, especially in this time where so much is changing and so much is changing so rapidly. Groups like this, Timo, I think Trailblazer community in general, but they're so powerful because these are free resources that folks like Timo, Lucas, myself, we're giving back to the community to help with adoption, because we know that it can feel like a lot to keep up with. Not only are we needing to keep up with the changes in the technology in and outside of Salesforce, so just AI in general, it seems like there's new concepts that we need to grasp all the time, but there's also a ton of changes that are happening in the Salesforce ecosystem. A big one of those is what's happening inside of Marketing Cloud. And that's what we're really going to talk about today. So before jumping into two-way communication, I think it's important to understand the fundamental architectural shifts that we're seeing in the platform and how that impacts all of us. And I'll start out with a little history lesson. Maybe this is a review for some folks, but like we were saying before we recorded, people who are new to the platform, I think adopting Marketing Cloud Next is a little bit easier because there's not a decade plus of context that we have to untrain our brains on and learn the new thing. So traditional Marketing Cloud, we're referring to ExactTarget or Pardot, now called Marketing Cloud Engagement or Marketing Cloud Account Engagement, already super clear and not confusing at all. But it's important to understand there's some context there. So a lot of professionals that exist in the Salesforce Marketing Cloud space, some people might call them the OGs or the originals, we came as part of that acquisition. So
or
there was
Kardashians,
or
shout out.
Kardashians, yes, Kardashians, which, yeah, I was in that group as well. And that was a really interesting shift. So for myself, for example, I was introduced to the Pardot system when I was working at Microsoft, and this was over a decade ago. So I was working with Microsoft and Microsoft Dynamic CRM. Pardot, this scrappy startup out of Atlanta, integrated with Dynamic CRM. So it became this opportunity to hook in this email automation or marketing automation platform into Microsoft Dynamic CRM. And at the time, we used it for creating lists and segments based off of CRM data and sending emails, broadcasting emails out to those audiences. I've learned a little bit of ExactTarget over the years, but basically what ended up happening is ExactTarget acquired Pardot, which was a separate emailing system. And then Salesforce acquired ExactTarget. ExactTarget became Marketing Cloud, and Pardot, this inherited piece, still remained Pardot for a very long time until they renamed everything. Pardot became Marketing Cloud Account Engagement, and ExactTarget became Marketing Cloud Engagement. So for a long time, for a decade, the type of work that we were doing, the business use case was build a list, email that list, and the key metrics we would track were opens and clicks. And one of the powerful things of Pardot for the previous decade was being able to send out bulk emails and track engagement by seeing who opened your emails and who clicked on those emails. And then as Salesforce acquired Pardot and evolved Pardot into a tool that was built really to work with Salesforce, Pardot became a tool that would really tie in to your Salesforce CRM and allow you to build lists based off of campaign members. It could differentiate from a lead or a contact. And so it had a lot of power built into it. But the way that it was designed to work with Sales Cloud was really to leverage the relationship between campaign members. So for any campaign you have on the Salesforce side, you could create a list off of that. You can also automate sending individuals over, leads and contacts. And the strategy that we would implement for many customers using this platform was send an email out to, oftentimes large lists of prospects, have completion actions take place. So when someone opens, we want to do a thing. Typically, add them to a campaign with a status of opened. If they clicked, we would do another automation, add them to a campaign with a status of clicked. And these were the insights that we would provide to the organization to determine how well an email campaign worked. When it came to handling replies or any kind of two-way scenario, what the answer is we were able to set the reply to on those messages. Now, Pardot had a really cool feature at the time. Well, they still have it. But that cool feature, that reply mail management feature for Pardot or Marketing Cloud Account Engagement, is you could have the reply tos go to a CRM account owner. If there was no CRM account owner, you could have it go to the assigned user for the lead or the contact in that for that record. So if Timo was the CRM owner for Brandon Walton, and Brandon Walton clicked on an email or replied to an email, rather, that reply would just go to Timo's inbox. And then that was reply management for a very long time. And for a very long time as a marketer, that's all you were really worried about, right? As a marketer, I did my job. I sent the message out. Any replies go to Timo. It really is off of my plate. And when
That
it came
was already quite a lot. I think a lot of marketers didn't even want those replies. A lot of salespeople definitely didn't want those replies. So different world.
Yeah, well, I mean, at the time, I think early on, like, a decade ago, there was something exciting about that for sales reps who really embrace marketing. And as a consultant, you work with many different teams, and it was always interesting to see a dynamic as you'd walk into some of these projects. We work with a lot of startups. So I think a brand new salesperson at a startup loved it, right? Yeah, send me all of that stuff. Until those lists grew and grew and grew. Marketing is because the name of the game for a really long time was bulk email sends. It was in the name. And success for a lot of startups was how many prospects can you grow to? So you might start out, oh, we're emailing 1,000 people, then 5,000 people, then 10,000 people. And it was literally a success metric on how big your email lists would get. And what ends up happening over time is that list gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Poor Brandon or poor Timo, the sales team is like, okay, last year I would have to, sift through 100 out of office replies and, no longer with company or whatever. Not that big of a deal, right? I go and clean it up in my inbox. Now as the company would be ramping up over time, now there's marketing emails going out more regularly. There's replies going out more regularly. And it became very common that inbox just gets blown up with stuff, right? So before you know it, as marketing is taking off, now poor Brandon has 30,000 unread emails in his inbox. And Brandon Walton's looking at his inbox like, well, a good chunk of these are out of office replies or some kind of autoresponder. And I had to dig through all of this to find like the really good stuff. So there was a tool that has been bought and sold, and now it's actually part of SalesLoft, believe it or not. It was called SiftRock, and it was founded by some friends of mine actually, and it was awesome. I think 2018 is when they launched it, and they leveraged machine learning. So machine learning, we could say. Maybe the big brother of AI as we know it today, but it would leverage some machine learning to learn like types of emails that would come. And what you have the ability to do is connect this to the inbox. It would connect to a Pardot API or Marketo API. And then you can, based off of the type of reply, you can have, you send it to different lists or things like that. That tool, while it no longer exists, we created at Cypress a product called Reply Intelligence that basically does that exact same thing. So we kind of carried the torch on for that. And that's been a great tool. And when we talk about reply management, that was one step of taking this notion of broadcast emails, and rather than them going to a place that get totally ignored, the context totally ignored, we can now start identifying the types of context that's coming in from those replies and take action on it. And that's been a tool that's worked great. We have clients that are using that absolutely love it. However, when we talk about two-way conversational interaction marketing, We're talking about the next stage of that. So now it's 2026. We live in this world beyond just machine learning, beyond just being able to take some context from a message and feed it back to a machine for automation. The expectations of customers are evolving just as fast as the technology is evolving. So what we've started doing after, over the last couple of years is taking a look at this whole idea of broadcast messaging and really trying to understand how we can take that to the next level. So in the early days of reply intelligence, what that looked like was we send out an email to a list of recipients. From those list of recipients, we have a certain percentage of auto reply emails. One of the things that we wanted to do early on was leverage those out of office or autoresponder emails to give us more context to understand better what's going on with the customer. So if I send an email to Timo and Timo's message says, I'm out of the office on paternity leave, I'll be back in 6 months. It's important for marketing to be able to recognize that. And rather than keeping Timo on those lists and keep sending Timo marketing messages, so now Timo comes back in 6 months and he's, gosh, this Cypress company just sent me an email a week for the last 6 months, unsubscribe, or, just missed context there. We have a tool that can say, oh, Timo's going to be gone for 6 months. So let's suppress Timo for 6 months. Another use case, for example, is Timo says, hey, I'm at Connections, I'll be back next week, or I'm at Dreamforce, I'm out for a week. That's an excellent signal that for a very long time, marketers who are totally ignoring replies miss out on. Because what a great opportunity for a system to be aware that, oh, Timo just went to the conference. What was that conference? When is Timo going to come back? And being able to leverage that information so that we engage with Timo better. So a big challenge is for a long time, marketers would just totally ignore this context. If it went back to a marketing catch-all inbox, one of the things that we found is a lot of organizations would just ignore that. So you'd have these inboxes that were essentially black holes of replies that would just go unignored. And then the risk is, without even paying attention to that context at all, we're continuing to send messages that might be not aligned with where our customer or prospect is in their life. And we found with clients that we worked with, clients that did take those kinds of things into consideration, they yielded much better results with those prospects. Prospects were less likely to opt out. The engagement is actually better because now what I'm able to send over to sales as a marketer is, here's Timo. Timo just went to Dreamforce and he got back. 4 months before that, he was at Connections and he just got back. So, hey, sales, here's some information about this person. And that information did not come from a click. It did not come from an open. It came from just paying attention to something that traditionally these systems ignored. And so that was a big step forward into this two-way era. Now, let's introduce the world that we live in right now, which we have generative AI that can write for us, that can take in context, that can take in data and generate responses and follow-ups and come up with action plans on prospects. Let's talk about agentic AI. Agentic AI can do more with that context. We can go in, we can have agentic AI either draft or send a reply to Timo based off of that with some recommendations, with some suggestions, and also go back into a CRM or a marketing platform and make updates to Timo's record. When we talk about leveraging technology today to make our traditional broadcasting communications more interactive, that's exactly what we're talking about. We're talking about taking this traditional or historic context of tracking engagement as clicks and opens to determine what additional broadcast messages that we're going to send. And we're talking about leveraging the technology we have today to help us as marketers, one, be more engaging with our customers. Two, give our customers a platform where whether they're replying to Brandon or Timo or info or events or sales, rather than Brandon being ignored, Brandon has a communication stream. Because while that's important to the entire organization, if we just talk about the value that brings to marketers, now we're able to track a metric that before we weren't able to track. So one of the things that we're doing right now is we're tracking beyond just clicks and opens, but actually replies becomes a really strong metric for how we look at a performance of an email. And we can go deep into replies. We can say how many replies are an autoresponder, how many of those autoresponders are out of office for an event, out of office on leave, no longer with company, how many of those are real replies, how many of those are real replies with buyer intent, how many are those are real replies with unsubscribe requests. And we're able to take action on those as well. So as marketers, it's important for us to understand how we can leverage this technology to drive better engagement. We've been doing it at Cypress with our own tool for several years, and now it's really exciting to see that Salesforce is adopting a version of this, and that's going to be built in and available for Salesforce users as well. I'll pause there because I'm seeing the chat, but I haven't been watching it. If there's any questions, Timo, or if you want to add anything, I'm happy to answer any questions. Actually, I think it's just a lot of help.
Don't worry, I'll just I'll interrupt you if there's any questions. So I'll keep moderating.
Okay, perfect.
There's not that much to moderate, but throw your questions. We have the professional in the house, so you get some free consulting from Brandon.
Yeah, absolutely. And while we wait for questions, I mean, just to reiterate on that, I mean, for folks who are new to Marketing Cloud and they're looking at Marketing Cloud Next, one of the other things that, again, is a shift for the folks who have been in this space for a long time, but it's leveraging unified messaging. So that means there's a cost or a consumption that goes out with every email sends. And that's been a challenge for a lot of the marketers that I work with to wrap their brains around, look, don't just hammer everyone in your marketing system with emails every single day because you can. And it's been a thing of controversy for a lot of folks that I talk to, but as I start coming around to it, I'm starting to appreciate more and more, like putting limits on how many emails that marketing can send out, because it forces you to do more with that engagement. And I think we're also living in a world where more and more companies are sending emails out. Everyone's email inbox is filling up. So as a marketer, whatever you can do to stand out is really going to benefit your efforts. And it's really becoming a world of less is more. And that's the power of Data Cloud, of where Marketing Cloud Next is going. And that is, rather than just sending these broadcast messages that go out every day with an announcement or an alert, we really want to be intentional with when we are reaching out to people. And that's where I'm seeing marketing evolving right now. And for people who want to A, stay relevant, or B, maybe you're just getting into this space and you're really wanting to understand how to what those best practices are, the more that you can learn how to capitalize off of engagement data is going to do wonders for you. So we're seeing already the cold email, the send an email to everyone, even a drop in engagement and things like newsletters and like the product updates are kind of interesting. It's interesting to see how different organizations use product updates. But I think what we're really seeing is a world where the expectation of customers is that they're only going to hear from you when they want to hear from you. And it's a very sacred relationship, and it's becoming more and more sacred to not bother people with noise, but to really be intentional on when you're reaching out, because it's becoming easier and easier and easier for Brandon to hide your emails. The only thing that you can do to make sure that your emails are being delivered upon is to make sure they're relevant, because it's becoming something that is more empowering for the user, right? Brandon's going to choose if I want to see an email from the shirt company that I ordered a shirt from a month ago, right? And if I buy a shirt from an e-commerce brand and they're emailing me with like 20% offers 2 or 3 times a day, they lost me, right? I'm just going to unsubscribe. Or to bring it back to two-way communication, if they're emailing me, hey, Brandon, I hope you really like your shirt. And I say, yes, I love this shirt. And then it goes ignored. Well, that's also a missed opportunity, right? So the value of email is really shifting from something that I think a lot of people across multiple industries just treat it as this free, unlimited channel, to something that's becoming more and more sacred for people, and more people have an option to just hide what they don't want to see.
So essentially, you're saying that we should be treating, prospects or engagement as a finite resource, like sort of like a precious metal or something, that you can lose them. I mean, we all know that you can easily lose your audience with just a few crappy emails. Sorry, I'm really bad at this cursing on
I'm
live
an
events.
American. I don't consider crappy a bad word. So in
Oh,
my language,
I've done worse.
I think I've heard them.
But anyway, we have some really uncrappy questions here in the chat.
Sure.
So I wanted to give them a bit of spotlight. So Bhakti was asking a really relevant question. So you mentioned that with agentic AI, which warms my heart, really fan of everything agentic. Mentioning that with agentic AI, you can do a bunch of fancy stuff, and using it with analytics, you can do granular like responses to different kinds of out of offices and whatnot. But how can you use this sort of two-way communication with Pardot, the good old-fashioned Pardot, not MC Next?
Sure. So for Pardot, I'll use the example of Reply Intelligence, which is a tool that we created for this exact same purpose, right? So when you think of a tool like Pardot, which I won't get into the argument of is it going to be a legacy tool or anything like that, but let's say a tool that's been around for a long time. It's important to understand that architecturally, behind the scenes, what you have is a system that's designed to send emails, send emails, send emails. That exists separate from your inbox, that exists separate from your Gmail, separate from your Office 365. Even though we can authenticate that to send from the same domains, you have to realize it's a totally separate system. So you have a system over here that's able to send emails when things happen. That can be an engagement program. That can be an autoresponder when a form fill happens. That can be a list email, kind of like what we're talking about. Hey, here's this important product release. Here's a newsletter that we're looking to send out. So two-way communication, the way that we've approached that with Reply Intelligence, is we wanted to augment some of those built-in reply mail management features that Pardot has. The built-in feature that Pardot has is you can add your reply to, and you can have some logic that go to the reply to. We discussed it a little earlier, where you can have the replies go to the assigned user, the account owner, or a general inbox. The problem with that, and what we solve for at Reply Intelligence, is you can route that back, but as marketing grows and scales, you get these inboxes that become overwhelmed, and what we've seen happen over and over and over again, those replies get ignored. In the system, there's nothing inside of the system natively that treats those replies as a metric that a marketer can take any action off of or even take credit for. So what we did with Reply Intelligence is we created an integration that can tie to an inbox. If you're using Office 365, it can tie into a shared inbox. And that's really powerful because we work with a lot of teams where those shared inboxes become just ignored spaces or afterthoughts or someone's chore that they need to spend multiple hours a day going in and cleaning up those 30,000 unread emails. But it's an automation layer that ties into that. So the way that we thought about it is we want to leverage those replies almost as a lead generation or a lead capture opportunity. So what we did to get it to work with Pardot is we leverage multiple form handlers. And we also, so there's a feature in Pardot that is semi-obscure, but it's called an external activity. So we've done it with external activities, but we've also done it with form handlers that really allow you to take advantage of what I think the full completion action automation engine inside of Pardot. So what we do with Reply Intelligence is we have different form handlers to handle different types of replies. So our system will go in and determine if it's an out of office because someone's out of office at an event at Dreamforce, for example, we'll have a handler for that. So we can do a couple of things. One, we can create a Salesforce task and say, hey, Timo, follow up with this person. Two, one of the things that we've done is have a very specific, detailed, personalized autoresponder email that'll go out. So it's a two-way communication. It's not as fancy as the new agentic stuff that you're going to be able to do with Salesforce on the new Marketing Cloud Next. But rather than it just being, hey, no one's going to listen to your reply, so sorry, what it allows us to do is based off of the context of that reply, generate an autoresponder that really addresses the type of request that came from that individual. So if that's somebody looking to unsubscribe, we can send an autoresponder that says, hi, Timo, we understand that you're looking to unsubscribe. We want to let you know that we got your request and we're unsubscribing you right away. And then we have the completion action unsubscribe them.
Don't unsubscribe me. I didn't unsubscribe.
Just an example. Timo, you would never unsubscribe from my stuff, and I would never spam you stuff that you didn't want. But that's an example, right? And that's a very real thing that happens. And that was one of the big drivers in us creating Reply Intelligence, is that people would, and these would turn into spam complaints, right? They wouldn't click the button to unsubscribe. They would just say, hey, like, you want to talk about bad language, go through and read through we've read through millions of replies, and you can get a lot of inspiration for language when people are looking to unsubscribe. And their replies aren't
acknowledged. Creative.
They really do. This is the 5th time I've told you I never want to buy your, hoodie ever again, right? But that's a great example, right? Being able to listen to that reply and understand, okay, this is Timo. Timo's not interested, or hey, I'm the wrong contact. I don't have anything to do with this, right? So there's actions that we need to take. So the solution for Pardot is that we can have a mechanism now that can manage that inbox where those actually go to, and really be a connector to bring that data back into your Pardot system, and then have different channels that can handle it. So we're not necessarily needing to wait for a salesperson to take action. We're not requiring any human to have to go in and dig through 30,000 out of office replies or hit unsubscribe manually on those links. We want to automate those types of things. And when it comes to the communication back, one, we want to communicate that internally through a completion action. And then what's worked really, really nicely is setting up, again, these very contextual autoresponder emails. Now, these autoresponder emails aren't AI generated. It's not an AI system going in and reading a thread of email and then generating a response and then sending it. That's the newer stuff does that. But for Pardot, that's the solution.
But at least it works every time the same way. So you get that kind of like reliability that you get with rule-based logic.
Exactly. It's the reliability. And it's also, we don't have to worry about it ever hallucinating or sending the wrong thing out. We have the right controllers on it. And most importantly, it gives us the control to have context based off of the type of reply. It's not just sorry, no one's listening to this at all. Reach out to your rep. Good luck, right? Which is like a terrible customer experience.
Yeah. Hey, there was a great question. I think it sort of tied into what you were already saying about using kind of like shared inbox, and then mapping the reply intelligence application to that mailbox. But Vladimir Simek was asking, what are the prerequisites and hands-on steps / configuration necessary in Marketing Cloud Engagement or Next to get started with reply management and the tracking that you mentioned?
Yeah, so it's important to know that we created reply intelligence as a way to augment what's included with those platforms. So with Marketing Cloud Next, when you go through the steps of authorizing your domains or creating those authorized authenticated domains to send, there'll be a button in there once it's authorized that's called RMM, or Reply Mail Management. This is going to be updated by Salesforce once this product, the two-way product, is ready for release. Right now, when you go in there, what it gives you the option to do as a Marketing Cloud user is enable Marketing Cloud Next Reply Mail Management. The first toggle that you have would be an option to basically suppress all of the auto replies, right? So what their approach is, rather than loading up your inbox with those 30,000 out of offices and whatever, they'll screen those out for you. That's what exists inside of the unified messaging Marketing Cloud Next platform right now. What you then have the ability to do is create an autoresponder email. It's a single autoresponder email. You don't have access to the personalization, so it's not sending a Marketing Cloud email out, but it allows you to send a basic, like, thank you for reaching out, contact your AE. So again, it is that kind of basic blanketed one. And then you have the option to forward it to an inbox, and this can go to an individual or an inbox. So with Marketing Cloud Next, what exists today is that RMM feature. It's also important to call out in the configuration of that, there's actually, when you set up those domains, you'll send it to a subdomain reply dot whatever your domain is. So there's a server that's going to handle those replies that's managed by Salesforce for you. So the idea is you don't really have to think about it. What that also does is, if you're familiar with Data Cloud and the DMO for engagement, in the engagement DMO, in the email channel, there are some reply fields. So what it does is it will capture some of those replies as a reply metric that you can report on in Marketing Cloud Next. I would suggest if you have Plus, you get some additional reporting and analytics that makes a little bit of that easier. But in Marketing Cloud Next, you can set up reply mail management. You can leverage Data Cloud and leverage that engagement DMO to do some reply tracking that way. Marketing Cloud Engagement, formerly Exact Target, has a reply mail management feature that you can enable. What that does is that's going to detect some keywords for you and understand some basic context there. It's really designed to help you understand things like opt-outs and stuff like that. But it is its own detection, kind of keyword based. Think like a regular expression type model that'll read for the keywords. And then for account engagement, again, you have that, who do you want to send the reply to, and you can add some logic there. And that's what exists in those systems. And then, what Reply Intelligence did is we wanted to take that a step further by actually establishing a connection to an actual inbox and then giving you the ability to map and send actions wherever you want to send those. We're actually working on a data kit right now for Data Cloud. So the idea is you'd be able to have your Data Cloud replies actually listening to that Reply Intelligence inbox. So you'll get all the good stuff that we're appending, the context, what type of reply it was. And we want to make that visible inside of Data Cloud. So we've spun that up and we're testing it right now. And our goal there is to make that as a data kit. So you don't have to go through all of the mapping exercises that we're going through. You just install it and get Reply Intelligence and you're off into the races.
Then your agent can have a field day looking through all the viscous replies that you get.
Exactly, exactly. And so reply intelligence
Sentiment
will
and
be, yeah,
analysis, like how hostile are these people? Are they
yeah,
going
well,
to be like?
so great point. And that's something that we do in reply intelligence, right? So we plug into some of that machine learning sentiment analysis type stuff. So we'll do some of that. And yeah, we'll send that into that. That's exactly what we're working on. We'll send that into Data Cloud. So Data Cloud is going to know the sentiment is positive, 82% positive or 43% negative, that kind of stuff, right? The idea is we send all of that into Data Cloud. So now your Agent Force AI is going to know the bucket of emails, like what the reply intelligence enrichment includes in that, right? What reply intelligence categorize that at? Was it an unsubscribe request? Was it a friendly unsubscribe request? Wasn't it abrasive unsubscribe? Like all of those additional insights, exactly. You can train your agent on it. So now your agent can make more better informed decisions on what you may want that agent to do with those replies.
Maybe not use the same language though. If they get trained with
Oh, that's a great, yeah, that's a great point. I mean, right now, so right now the biggest test is like, yeah, in the agent configuration, right, always polite, always professional. You can establish those guardrails, and if someone wishes to unsubscribe, so if it's determined as an unsubscribe, you just let them, acknowledge them like, yes, we received your request, we've unsubscribed you.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's also a really important thing. How many people hit unsubscribe from a system to still receive those messages and not have any confirmation that you've been unsubscribed at all, right? Like,
Mm.
especially, I think that's one of the unfortunate, I find, was it year ago, maybe 2 years ago now, there was a requirement by Google and Outlook where you have to have the one-click header in the
Mm.
one-click unsubscribe in the header. I find I click that on emails and still receive emails from the same companies over and over and over. And again, you don't get any. If you're going to send me another email, anyways, what would be a nice customer experience would be send me email acknowledging, hey, Brandon, we understand that you requested to opt out. This is an email confirming that, we've added you to our unsubscribe list. Just
Mm.
something to let me know, right? That would actually change my perception of a brand versus a brand that just seems to be totally ignoring my unsubscribe requests. They meet all the technical
That's true.
requirements, but they're ignoring it. And there's companies that I'm not going to buy anything from again because of how they handled that email communication.
But Brandon, we have a couple of more really juicy questions, so I want to save some time for you to answer those. So Nelson Michael asked about what skills should you start investing in now to succeed in this kind of conversational two-way marketing?
So I would say where the future of the platform is going, getting into Data Cloud, and understanding the engagement DMOs, data model objects. So understanding what's in there is going to be really important. I think for all marketers, understanding how Data Cloud and Marketing Cloud work together is absolutely essential. That's going to be essential for all of your list building. And when you get good at that, and when you really understand what's going on, it's going to help build your segments better in a way where you can support two-way communication more effectively.
And that's regardless if you're going to use the legacy exact target or the fancier next platform, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Because the other platforms, they're not going to support the level of flexibility on replies as a Data Cloud would capture, right? You're not going to be able to do much reporting on it. I mean, that's what we did with Reply Intelligence and Exact Target, but basically that's like you're tracking form handlers, right, in that regard. So that DMO for engagement is really going to be powerful for marketers across the board. I mean, and it does go beyond just the email channel, right? So there's the email channel, there's a web channel, there's SMS channel. So I think as a marketer who really wants to future-proof your skills, getting into and understanding Data Cloud and that engagement DMO is mission critical.
Great. Next question is from Tommy, a fellow Finn. Hey, Tommy. So he was asking, like, he understands that this is quite a fancy improvement from a technical standpoint, and he was a bit unclear as to, do we actually have data supporting that this actually brings business value? So I was wondering if you could share a few sort of use cases or business scenarios where this kind of reply intelligence or intelligent way of handling auto responses and so on. How does it bring value to business, like concrete numbers?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think for the last several years, we've processed over 3 million replies. And I think some of the big places where I can just see a big impact, the number one has been unsubscribes. Being able to handle unsubscribes better has been the number one most important thing. And so I think when we talk about two-way, we want to talk about it in two different layers. Layer one is giving your marketing automation tool visibility to the reply. And that was the initial mission of Reply Intelligence, right? Let's give your marketing automation platform insights to the reply. And that's something that we're seeing across the board driving better engagement. Number one, being able to unsubscribe people when they're unsubscribed. So spam complaints was the biggest one, right? We have clients who are using account engagement for cold email, right? We have seen that. We've dealt with them. We've told them that they shouldn't be doing it, but they are doing it. So one, being able to cut back on spam complaints because you're not emailing that person over and over and over again, we've really been able to help a lot of companies manage their spam complaints better. I think when we start getting into the like newer generative AI and the two-way conversation of, is Timo actually having an engaging conversation with marketing on there? That's data that candidly we don't have a lot of information on. So I would say that's like where this is going, right? The messaging that we're hearing, and I think the messaging that we're challenging is, does Timo want to have a conversation with Brandon's AI about a product that he bought? I agree that that might be still to be determined a little bit, but where I can definitely say the concept of reply intelligence is helpful is being able to drive engagement by giving your marketing platform insights and knowledge and intelligence on what types of replies are coming back. So the ROI really is better reporting, being able to understand that when you send out 50,000 emails, you know what? There's 10,000 emails that were out of office. So they didn't even hit your target, right? Or they're not going to hit your target for another few weeks. That becomes powerful for marketers to understand and to build their future campaigns around. Being able to do things like data cleanup. So understand Brandon's no longer with the company, right? Brandon's no longer with Salesforce. So being able to understand and capture those reply metrics, those reply intelligence is where we're really seeing the most value now. And so when I say reply intelligence, that's the first step there. And then being able to provide a channel for salespeople to understand those insights better on how their prospects or accounts might be engaging with those reply emails. Now, the second part of it, I think this is a whole new world that we're all dipping our feet into more and more and more. We've done an AI product as well that'll actually do replies. We're doing some really cool things with that. But I will say in full transparency that the ROI is going to be out on that. So right now we have an AI that'll listen to the replies, and then based off of a type of reply, we can have it do certain things. Right now, it's really simple. If someone is interested, we can give them an option to connect to their salesperson. And because it's trained on the CRM data, it's going to know, oh, Brandon, you're working with Timo. Let me get you over to Timo. But where it's really helpful, and again, we see this in marketing emails, is, hey, like, why am I receiving this email? And being able to have a two-way conversation saying, hey, Timo, it looks like you received this email because you signed up for this sweepstakes at our booth last year or something like that. Those are types of things that they're really cool and exciting to see. but I don't have a full picture on what the ROI is going to be. And I think it'll still be maybe a year or two until we really have those insights. But those are the types of things that we're testing right now in this world of generative AI.
Awesome. What else? I was looking at Jolly Chen was already, or she was asking about data cloud and Pardot data. If she should bring in all her Pardot data into
Yep,
data
I'm
cloud,
caught
and
up
I
there.
was sort of
Yeah,
answering that.
I can see the chat. So I'll read Jayoli's message. Do you think it is recommended to move all Pardot data into Data Cloud if the company is building a new org? What I'll do is I'll just address the do you move all Pardot data into Data Cloud? With Data Cloud, it's important to understand that it's consumption based. And oftentimes when we're talking about that Pardot engagement data, we want to understand two things. So there's ingestion data, which now if it's CRM data, we don't have to worry about. So like that's your data stream. But there's something that we do in the process to get things working with Data Cloud. We make a unified individual. Making a unified individual is one of the more expensive Data Cloud processes. So when I think of Pardot data, and when we've done this so far, I'd be very careful about taking, someone who unsubscribed 12 years ago and moving that person into Data Cloud. I would question whether it's valuable. So what I would suggest doing is an audit of your marketing platform, Pardot, for example, and just moving over or looking at the relevant prospects. And that can vary from company to company, depending on like your sales cycles and things like that, for example. But if you work for a company that's been using Pardot for a very long time, someone whose their last reply to an email was 2016, you probably don't need to move that over. Similarly, with that engagement history, you probably don't need to move
She
over
said
things
close to 10 years.
Yeah.
I think, I want to add a bit and maybe, make or add a bit of a not as clear cut of a use case, because I think when you're talking about prospects, if you have inactive, unsubscribed, unmailable prospects, that makes sense. But if you have engagement history data, do you bring that, like all of the engagement history data? Because you get that idea that, but I don't know if I'm going to use that. I might end up with an automation that needs actually 2 or 3 or even 5 years of long-term engagement data. So will I just, throw it in the bin, just lose it altogether? I mean, as an architect, you have to look beyond the Salesforce stack every now and then. And I mean, you can use a data warehouse. I mean, they have such a lot of space for that kind of stuff. And your engagement history is going to be a like drop of water, like a droplet in the ocean, compared to, let's say, installed base data, IoT data, etc. So ask your IT department for, folder or like a storage location inside the enterprise data warehouse. Or if you're a startup, then just set up, an AWS bucket or something. It's gonna be a lot cheaper to store it there than using Data 360 credits to ingest and then transform. And with Data 360, it's not only about the ingestion, really, because it's an activation platform. It's like you don't want to bring in, all of your stuff from the old apartment to a new one, even though your new apartment is shiny and bigger. I mean, if you bring in all of the stuff, it's just gonna clutter things up and make it difficult or more difficult to find what you actually need. And that's the thing. You want to go full on Marie Kondo, KonMari, on your Data 360. If it doesn't, what does she
It doesn't
say?
bring you
It's like,
joy. Yes.
if it doesn't bring you joy, then don't bring it in. Just
Yeah.
and if you're unsure, then store it in a long-term storage location, preferably a data warehouse, but it could be a data lake as well. It's your preference and depending on your architect stack and so forth. But yeah, that's
I'd be very careful
my
about
thoughts.
just saying, bring everything into Data Cloud for the purpose of having it there.
Yeah.
So I think
It's you have to adopt this kind of just enough mindset instead of just in case. That's what I want to say.
I see another question. There might be other ones, but this is from Nelson Michael. I joined a major retailer's loyalty program and got 100 emails in 2 weeks. Why is this still happening? And how can agentic two-way email marketing shift us to fewer, more relevant messages? And I think that's exactly it, right, Nelson? So right now, if you think of a legacy marketing system, they're tracking clicks and opens. We know that you might have an iPhone that's clicking, or that's showing every email is open. So we see this. We see these false signals going into marketing channels of saying, wow, this loyalty program's, kicking butt, and Nelson's opening and clicking links. And so there's some system somewhere that thinks that you're a highly engaged prospect. I think there's other things going on there. There was also a world 10 years ago where the strategy is if somebody's hot, send them more stuff, which proved to be a fallacy. Like, that was incorrect. If someone's hot, you want to get them over to sales and start suppressing more and more marketing. So there's probably more going on with that loyalty program. I also get those too, right? Again, the example of I buy a shirt from a website, and now I'm getting their promotional emails every single day. You could even go back to some older capabilities like email preference center, where you can say, yeah, you know what, just send me one summary a month, or yeah, I do want a weekly or a daily thing. And the idea of two-way email is, as a customer, rather than you having to go to a page and click on a button to enter a preference, what you should be able to do is reply and say, you guys are sending me way too much stuff, right? And that should be a signal back to the system that says, all right, let's suppress this guy, or let's remove them from the daily email things. Now, there's some architectural stuff that'll have to happen behind the scenes in order for that to happen. But that's what we're talking about with two-way, right? Nelson shouldn't have to go click on a link, go to an email preference center, adjust a bunch of stuff. If he replies like, hey, can you guys stop? Or hey, can you guys chill for a little bit? Or too many emails, just something like that. We should be able to capture that signal, bring that intelligence back into the system, and handle some suppression. Now, the next step is whether that handling is agentic or done by an actual person. Customer, you probably don't care as long as your messaging gets handled the right way. But that's the exact type of listening and making that communication channel easier to use that we're talking about.
Awesome. I think that was a nice sort of punchline at the end for the session, and I really enjoyed the kind of conversational vibe here. Tried to keep it two-way. There was a meta level to this session, I see. And yeah, hopefully everybody else was as excited as I was to hear Brandon's thoughts, and definitely gave new thoughts to me as well on how I need to move forward in this kind of idea of two-way communication in email. Thank you, Brandon.
Cool. What I've done, shameless plug, I've shared our URL for our reply intelligence tool, and also just connect with me, Brandon Walton, on LinkedIn. I know that we need to wrap. Maybe I post in here, but just find me on LinkedIn, Brandon K. Walton. If you put Brandon K. Walton Salesforce, I should show up. Love to continue this conversation. If anyone has questions about best practices or scenarios that you're looking to solve for, happy to be available to assist.
Great. And just as a reminder, please join our next event that's gonna happen in mid-March. You can find it already on the Trailblazer community.com site when you go to search for Salesforce Marketing Architects. And if you want to watch this again or share it with your colleague, you can find these later on in the YouTube channel for Salesforce Marketing Architects. If you want, you can click subscribe so you will get notified the minute that these recordings get uploaded.
So Timo, thank you. And I wanted to add one more thing. So I believe nominations for Salesforce MVPs are out there. And I would like to drop Timo's name into that. So if you are feeling motivated, I think Timo would be an excellent candidate for an MVP from the articles that he publishes, the books that he's working on, doing things like this. Timo, I just want to say a big thank you because your stuff, especially with these new things that I'm learning, have been incredibly helpful for me to understand, like even agentic AI and what that means. So if Timo is a voice in the community that has helped you out, MVP nominations are open, and Timo, you've got my support.
Thank you, Brandon. That means really a lot coming from you, and I really appreciate it. Anyway, thanks everybody. I'm just gonna stop recording